This is the 1893 piece, The Child's Bath by Mary Cassatt. And while it may not seem groundbreaking now, it was at the time. When most male impressionists were painting ballerinas and nudes, she was focused on the everyday lives of women. She gave women a depth and dignity that was rarely seen in art at the time. And she herself was just as groundbreaking as her work. Let's talk about her today. If you want new art and artists in your feed every day, just hit follow. Mary Cassatt was born May 22nd, 1844 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She was born into an upper middle class family as her father was a very successful stockbroker. She grew up traveling in Paris, learning languages, taking art and music lessons, and eventually falling in love with painting in Paris. But when she returned to America at 15 years old and started studying at the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, she had some issues. The academy was full of patronizing male students. Women couldn't even use live models, and she got frustrated fast. She eventually said, "There's no teaching at this school," and she moved back to Paris to learn from the old masters. Since women could not yet attend Les Écoles de Beaux-Arts, she applied to study privately. She was accepted to study with Jean-Léon Gérôme, who painted this, so yeah, he was pretty good. Amongst learning from him, she would also go to the Louvre daily and practice by copying the paintings. She returned to the US during the Franco-Prussian War, and her dad was not happy with her dreams as an artist. He would pay for her basic needs, but he refused to pay for any art supplies. She even considered giving up art and wrote in a letter in 1871, "I have given up my studio and torn up my father's portrait. I have not touched a brush for 6 weeks and never will again." But she did. And she didn't rip up the portrait. She painted over it and gave it to somebody named Mrs. Curry, who worked for the family. But when we flip it over, you can still see her dad. But she didn't give up. A Catholic bishop commissioned her to copy some paintings, and with that money, she got back to Paris, where she belongs. She was at a low point in her life and career, but then Edgar Degas invited her to exhibit with the Impressionists. They began working side by side, and under his influence, her style grew even more bolder and experimental. Critics called her one of les trois grandes dames, or one of the three great ladies of Impressionism, alongside Marie Braquemont and Berthe Morisot. This was a time when women weren't even allowed to study in most art schools. But she made her way into Paris's top art scene and carved out a permanent position for women in art. She never married, lived independently, and painted women as intelligent, complex people. She also helped shape American art history. She convinced wealthy collectors to buy Impressionist work, which is why so many have ended up in American museums today. In 1911, she was diagnosed with cataracts, but she continued to paint. But 3 years later, she was forced to stop as she was almost blind. She died in Paris on June 14th, 1926, leaving behind a legacy as one of the greats of Impressionism. She showed the world women's lives from a woman's perspective, and she truly changed art forever.